Shalom. I'm speaking from the shul, the synagogue, in Hampstead Garden Suburb, here in London. I'd like to talk about the connection, the relationship between this week's Sedra, Vayechi, and the portion of the prophets that will be read in synagogues around the world, the Haftarah. The Sedra Vayechi is the last Sedra, the final one in the book of Genesis, the book of Parashat. It speaks about Jacob passing on from this world and explaining, charging his son with his last instructions and telling them, giving them a glimpse of their future. In the portion we read as the Haftarah from the book of Kings, the first book of Kings, chapter 2, we have a similar situation being described. King David, when he realizes that his days are numbered, charges his heir and successor, Solomon, who will be the great King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech. He also leaves him with instructions. The Sedra is called Vayechi, which means life, from the word chai or chayim. And it's curious, it's interesting, that it's named so, even though it's really talking about the death of Jacob. Now, in order to give us an explanation, we all know the song, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayam, that every Jewish child knows to sing. But King David actually died, so why are we singing that he is alive and in existence? The explanation is for both of these questions is what the sages teach us, that righteous people, even in their death, even after they've passed from this life and from this world, they are like the living, and maybe even more important and central, because their righteousness, their deeds, their reputation is carried on by their children, their families, friends, and their disciples. So the fact that Jacob is almost called alive is because he set his house in order, and he told and commanded his children to carry on what had begun by the family. King David does the same thing. In the Haftarah, he says that Hashem has told him, "Leman yakim Hashem et dvaro asher diber elai lemor." Listen carefully, my son Solomon, to what I'm going to tell you, so that God will uphold and perpetuate the covenant that he established with me, saying, Im yishmeru vanecha et derkam, if your sons will carry on the path, lelechet lefanai be'emet, to carry on honestly, with sincerity and righteousness, then they will persevere and they will survive. Life is about how we live our days, not so much about how long we live. We have to make sure that our children, our friends, our families, and our disciples know what the important message is, to live righteous lives and to help others. And in that way, through them, our memories and our essence will carry on for many, many years, even after we have passed from this life. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.